And I'm overwhelmed at how much I'm loved and I'm cared for. And this moment is unlike any moment I've ever shared at this house. Because here's what I believe. I believe that many of you here and many of you there are at a crossroads, and this is a moment for you. And even when I said that, something happened in many of you here today where you went, I've been waiting, I've been waiting, I've been waiting, I've been waiting. Wait is over. All that's lacking is you making a choice and a decision. And I beg you not to let this moment pass you by. Because the gravity and heaviness I feel on me is real. And it's real for you as it was for me. Do not neglect this moment, or you will regret this moment. Everything that's been bouncing around in your head, in many cases for years, is coming to a head right now. You've justified, you have criticized, you have done everything other than just face the moment and make a decision. And I'm telling you, today is your day of decision. Do not let this moment pass you by. It is not out of fear that I say this, but out of encouragement to you. This moment is the ripe moment for you to change. Don't let fear or panic or pressure or anything keep you from doing what you know to do right now. Because I'm going to tell you a story that I've never told publicly or talked about before publicly. And there's really two reasons. So I'm kind of by that right now. I'm back to where I'm not going to bawl all sermon long. But I've never told this for two reasons. Number one, it wasn't time. That's the first thing. And the second thing is nobody ever asked me to. Right? And how appropriate it was for John and I to be sitting in Jimmy John's. And I shared with him some stuff. As close as I am with him, he didn't even know. And Jordan and I were in a business call Tuesday of last week, and this jumped out of me. I didn't even know it was coming. And I said to the people that we were talking to in training, I'm preparing myself today for something that's happening Sunday. That's how important you need to know you are to this moment. I had no idea other than in my heart I felt. And when Johnny said, share with this, I immediately had no hesitation but to know this was the time for some of you this morning. Don't let it pass you by. So I'm going to start out by reading you something that kind of talks about journeys, and it's a story that some of us are familiar with, but I'm going to start with that. So just sit right back, and you're going to hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a... Right. The weather started getting rough and the tiny ship was tossed. If it weren't for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would have been lost. The minnow would be lost. Well, the ship set aground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle with Gilligan, the skipper, too, the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, the professor, and Marianne. here on Gilligan's Isle. Now, here's what's interesting to me this morning. We never remember verse 2. Did y'all even know there was a second verse? Here on Gilligan's Island. We're done, right? So this is the tale of our castaways. They're here for a long, long time. They'll have to make the best of things, but it's an uphill climb. The first mate and his skipper too will do their very best to make the others comfortable in this tropic island nest. No phone, no lights, no motor car, not a single luxury. Like Robinson Crusoe, it's primitive as it can be. So join us here each week, my friends. You're sure to what? Get a smile from 7 stranded castaways here on Gilligan's Isle. There's 2 verses there and 2 different people. And I thought about titling this morning, are you a verse 1 or verse 2 guy? Right? Because in verse 1, it's just all about the journey, and boy, it's happy, and there's storms that pop up, but everything's going to be good. But verse 2 has a totally different meaning to it. It talks about what it was really, really like. It was uphill. It was fight. It was continuous efforts trying to find out how they were even going to make their way. And that's the way I was, Jordan was, and Connie was 10 years ago. To this month. We had to make the best of things because it was an uphill climb. The first mate and the skipper too were doing the best we could to make things comfortable, but we had literally lost phones, lights, motor cars. Am I lying? And not a single luxury of life did we enjoy. See, you see this and you hear this and you think, my God, he's never had pain. He's not acquainted with suffering. You don't know verse 2. Today, some of you are just flat out in verse 2. It's a climb. It's a fight. There's no luxuries. Nothing makes you smile. It's all for naught. You're just stranded on an island with nowhere to go. I was there. We were there. 10 years ago this month. We had nothing. We had lost every single thing that was important to us we thought was gone. Nothing. We were stranded on an island with nothing and nobody. Anybody else ever felt like that? Verse 2. What about the trip? It was about the shipwreck. And I'll never forget standing in a barn in our backyard somewhat. And I was leaned against that barn door. And honestly, and I'm just being honest with you this morning, because of the things I had done, I had lost trust from the 2 people that I considered the dearest in my life. And they sat here this morning. That's horrible. When you think that the only thing that you can really hold on has now departed, it's a really tough place to be in. And so the beginning of our journey 10 years ago didn't start with their disgust and dishonor of me because I rightfully deserved it on bad decisions that I made, but it started when I leaned myself against that door, and hear me when I say this, and I had to make a decision right there at that moment, and that was this. What am I going to do with the mess I have made? That's a tough question to ask because I'd had some examples in my life. I'd had people who had decided to act less than courageous and departed my life because of messes they had made. So you see, I had those people around me that I could look to and say, well, they did it, so it's probably an alternative path that I can consider. Right? So sometimes we start looking around the people who've been through similar stuff with us. They've made decisions to move on that weren't the right decisions that affected us adversely, but we have a tendency to kind of fall back into that way because we don't know any better. They did it, I can do it, and we'll all be all right. And I'm telling you this morning, this is not a casual subject for me. This is serious. And I know some of you are feeling the exact same way this morning. Your life has come to a point where you're like, what do I do? With the mess that is surrounding me, made by you or somebody else, it's still a mess. You're on an island, deserted. You're like looking right and left, north and south, east and west, and there seems no hope. I was there. They were there. And I learned 3 things that I'm going to share with you this morning that I think perfectly describes where we're at today, and I think the word of the Lord for you. Because 10 years this month, we're different than we were 10 years ago back then, 2009. My son just graduated from high school. We were whooped. We picked up our stuff, literally throw it in 2 trucks and moved to Burleson, Texas, where we're now back today, and it began there. I remember driving up, and the only thing in that city that I saw resembled anything of hope for me was our family was there. My dad was there, my sister was there, and they were very supportive of us and helpful to us, but that was it. And let me tell you something, you can't undervalue family. It's very, very important still. And some of you have had some rough family bouts and outings, but I'm telling you something, that was all we had to hold on to at that point. We got there, and here's what started happening to me. I want you to hear me say 3 things this morning, because if you hear these things, I think it's going to help you understand where you are and what you can do about it. As we arrived in Burleson, something came to my mind, and it was this: get up. Get up. So what that meant to me, and it may be meaningful something to some of you this morning, is it's time to shake off of that what's put you down and get up and try again. For me, this is what I said to myself. I have been knocked down, but I have not been knocked out. You can knock me down, but I'm going to get back up to the last breath I have in me. Because when I stood at that barn door, I said to myself this: here's a moment of decision. Either you're going to get up and be courageous and fix your mess, or you're going to be like other people in your life who've chosen to run as a coward. And I looked at his blue eyes and her blue eyes, and I decided, when the pressure was on and there was everything in me going like, I can't fix this, I'm going to run, I decided that ain't me. And I think some of you even this morning have been teetering on that notion of, I'm too far gone. Whatever it is. I've gone too far. I've messed up too much. Here's what I'm telling you today: get up and get on with it. What happened to me was this: I just decided in my own head and thinking, there was nothing at that point that seemed spiritual to me. I just went like, okay, I got a decision to make. I'm going to man up. She didn't like me anymore at that moment. He didn't like me anymore at that moment. But I decided no matter what they felt or I felt, I am not quitting. People say to me all the time, ask me all the time, what do you want people to think about you when you're gone? I'm like, I don't know. Here's what I know they'll know about me: I don't quit. I just don't give up. You can beat me, you can knock me down, but you better put a dagger through my heart or I'm coming back up. And I'm telling you today, some of the word of the Lord for some of you this morning is just stop wallowing, get up. Get up. So we sat around and we're overcome by our circumstances, and I felt the financial pressure, I felt the emotional pressure, I felt the physical pressure, I felt everything, but what I knew is this: it ain't over till I say it's over. And some of you have allowed yourself to be convinced by somebody else's interpretation of your life too far gone, too many mistakes. It can never be fixed. I'm telling you to get up. It's time to move on. Sometimes we use excuses as an opportunity for us to stay siloed in our poor, pitiful me. I didn't have that luxury. I knew this. I'd made promises to Jordan and Connie that I was not going to completely give up on. And that required me to go like, okay, now we're done. So the second thing I realized is I got to, first thing, get up. Number two, I had to get out. I thought about this last week, and I still don't have an answer for it, so don't ask me afterwards. When Joseph was thrown in the pit, how did he get out? How did he get out of the hole? Did his brothers come back and help him out? No. I don't know how he did it, but here's what I do know. He got out. And for 10 years, all we have done is moving our way in the direction of getting out of the hole in the pit we were in. Let me talk about how deep it was. But before I do that, let me tell you this. The first law or rule of getting out of a hole is to stop digging. I made this up, I think. I call it the law of start and start. Stop and start. What do I have to start first, stop first doing? And what do I just need to start doing to change my life? And the first thing I realized is, okay, I'm up. I'm back on my feet. Oh, my God. How deep is this hole? And so what we had to decide to do was to put down everything that was digging stuff deeper, and start looking for a way out. And folks, we have crawled on our hands and knees. We have scraped. We have fought, we have kicked, we have screamed. We've done everything that we knew to do because at the end of the day, we could not get on with our life until first we got out of that hole. And see, some of you may be getting up, but you're running around in the hole that's holding you hostage. There's no effort to get out. Get out. And I'm going to tell you something. You're going to have to, if you get out of that hole, you're going to have to hustle, you're going to have to fight, you're going to have to fuss, you're going to have to stand on each other's backs, hold each other's hands, push each other up to get out. Because ain't nothing going to change until you get out of what you have put yourself in. Now let me stop and say that. I realize this. The blame for the hole was because of me. And what we tend, and we talk a lot about, it's very, very hard, sometimes, you shouldn't have to, people have put us in the place, and I'm not saying they haven't, but until we ultimately take responsibility for getting out of our own hole, things just ain't going to change. They're just not. I don't know who put you there, if you put yourself there, or somebody else put you there, but you got to get out to find happiness and peace of mind and contentment and prosperity. That hole is not a place you can stay, no matter who pushed you in it. So over the team, our hole was deep. And this is where it's real tough for me because it's embarrassing. Sometimes you just don't want to talk about this stuff. And you just kind of go like, most of the people that have known us during that time, the last thing they want to have a conversation with is about that. Just like, oh, y'all have moved on. You have no idea what we've moved on through. So just so we're not comparing stuff this morning, but we had a very, very deep hole financially to get out of, emotionally to get out of, relationally to get out of, deep. To add insult to injury, when we moved over to Texas, I get a phone call. I get a certified letter from the IRS saying I owe them $55,000. Good morning. Now, on top of everything else that was going on, I'm now staring with my wife at a $55,000 bill. Now, let me show you how tricky life is. I did say that, how tricky life is. we got involved in a group of folks that kind of a study group, or what they call them, home groups. And wouldn't you know it, probably 2 weeks after we got our letter and we're freaking out, this guy who's a friend of mine, actually not a friend, he's an acquaintance of mine, he comes in and his wife start talking about $100,000 and plus IRS debt. And you know what he said, Erwin? We just picked up the phone, called the IRS, and told them our story. And guess what they did? They forgave it. I'm like, Connie's like, well, we gonna call. I'm like, good plan. And guess what they said to us? Nope. Now understand, at that point, I was just surviving. I mean, we were in survival mode. I was selling drywall. I didn't know that it was half-inch drywall and 5/8 inch drywall when I started. But I knew they'd pay me $500 a week before taxes, and that's what we needed. So I started selling drywall. IRS said, nope. And this is the first thought that crossed my mind. God likes them better than us. I'm just telling you. I'm like, and mine's less. I mean, really, seriously, what's $55,000 to IRS? Why would he get it and me not get it? Have you ever thought that? I mean, you look at me. Why would that go to him and not to me? If you're fair, Yahweh, here I am. I'm gonna make it one more phone call. I'm going to try one more, just in case you were busy. For 10 years to last month, I'm telling you, 10 years to last month, I owed $55,000. I am not, what I'm about to say is not criticism. I'm saying it's a fact. Connie pulled it up on the calculator on her phone this morning. The $55,000 I owed ended up us paying back $96,000. And you know what? Yes, I'm out. So here's what you need to hear from me this morning. Sometimes you're just going to have to work through it. You can't compare and look and go like, his hole's deeper than this than mine is. So whatever you've done for him, you got to do for me, because it's not like that at all. And what I learned about holes is this. Usually the deeper it is, the longer it takes to get out. So I thought, 10 years, I mean, that's just like prison sentence. But can I tell you this? Even in that 10-year time, not only we pay off the debt to the IRS, I had always, the day Jordan was born, I'll never forget this. I took him out like most good daddies do, if you can. Pick up your baby, and I'm walking around. And Baptist Princeton Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. Wasn't that right? Yeah. I thought it was something like that. I'm walking him around. I take him to a window. I'm holding him like this, and we're looking out the window where I am. He still ain't got clear vision yet. And we're looking, and I'm sitting there, and I looked at him. I looked over him, and I'm like, I'm going to take care of you, boy. I'm going to take care of you. And one of the pledges I made to him was that I wanted him to get out of college with no debt. Now, am I saying that's your pledge? No. Is that the right pledge for you? No. I'm not saying that. But for me, it was. I'm like, I want you to go to school and get out of college with no debt, because I hear all these kids that are getting out of college and have $500,000, $250,000, $200,000. I mean, they're just debt. I'm like, I'm going to get you out of that. What do you think I remembered when I realized we were broke? Jordan was, remember I said he's going to out of high school, what's next? Yeah. And we ain't got nothing. But I'm here to tell you today that sometimes putting your hand to the plow is the only answer. People say, oh, the grace of God. Yeah. I have no doubts about that. But I promise you this, we'd still be in trouble if me and Connie ain't put our hand to the plow and started plowing. And so Jordan, son, pick where you want to go to college. In the back of my mind, I'm going community, or I'm going state school, because in Texas. So he was going to a school in Georgia. We moved, and he got accepted at Baylor, TCU, and A&M. Bunch of other ones, but those were the three main ones. So we went on a tour, and in the back of my mind, I'm going Texas A&M, state school, less money. The other two options were private schools. He was smart, got scholarships, but he comes home and says to me, it's Baylor. I went, yeah. And I said to him, I said, son, when you get out, you're not going to owe any money. Me and your mama are going to do this. And I'm not going to tell you how much money it cost, but it was a lot of money to go to Baylor University. But he left and graduated that day, not with one debt owed to his name. So you see, getting out of a hole is possible, but you got to scrape. You got to fight. And you've got to make a choice that no matter how deep it is, one day you're going to get out. One day you're going to get out. No matter how deep your hole is, don't stop fighting. Took us 10 years, not 10 minutes, not 10 months, 10 years. And the last thing I'm going to tell you is once you get up, you get out, you got to get going. Here was a big problem for me. Not only could Connie and Jordan not at that time trust me, I couldn't trust myself to make a decision. Think about what I just said. I'm the architect of our hole digging. And so now I'm like, we're out. What next? And so one of the things that I would encourage you to realize is that in moments like this, determining destination, where you're going and the road you're traveling is so important. And here's the encouragement I would give you this morning. We were down here one time. Johnny didn't know this. At least I don't think he did. Picked up his guitar, the house. He said, listen to this. He starts playing the guitar. And the only thing I heard was this. But his hand was still on me. His hand was still on me. And I'm telling you, whether you're laid down, hadn't got up yet, or you just made your way out of the hole, his hand is still on you. And I think some of you maybe this morning have felt deserted. You know, you're kind of like, he has left me. I am by myself. I want you to know this morning you're not. The biggest fight I've had after getting out is learning to say no to me. It's been difficult, but it was always my kingdom come, my will be done on earth as it is on earth. And I was a big fighter for my kingdom. I was. I told Johnny yesterday, I said, my level of aggression pushed me to do stuff. I just knew I could make stuff happen. With enough pressure, I could make stuff happen. I could get people to say yes. And what's interesting to me now is how little pressure it takes for results to happen in my life because of the God that I serve. The pressure and stress that I fought for years and years and years is gone. Because I truly get up every day and I seek first his kingdom. And what I've seen is everything else takes care of itself. Little stuff. I mean, Jordan and I are working on some business stuff, and my natural tendency and instinct is to rush hard, fast, and aggressively. I'm built like that primarily. And so this last week was really hard for us. Two big looming decisions were out there, and my plan in the past has always just been push in harder, or just push in harder. You know, you've got an opportunity here really to do something great, but you've got to make this happen. And this week was the first time in my life where I just sat back and said, we've done all we can do. I'm not responsible for the outcome. What I'm responsible for is the process. That's what I'm responsible for. Yahweh is the one who provides, right? He's the one and he'll do the same for you. But the toil and the sweat of my brow has fallen away. And it's interesting because like dealing with me in many cases is like dealing with a child. And I've realized that when I've had to start dealing with myself. My wife said that for 30 years. Right? But I've realized how stinking selfish that I am. That whole idea of learning to say no to myself was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but yet the most rewarding. And some of you today are in a place to where the biggest battle you face is the no's to your own self. Just that. You know, I've always served me for so long. It's hard. It's going to really be hard to, shift out of that. But I'm telling you, it's really, really rewarding. I mean, 10 years of fighting, 10 years of really difficulty in everyday life of paying bills and all that other kind of stuff, to where we are today. I told Connie this morning, sitting where we're staying, I said, I've never felt like this. I mean, literally, I've never felt like this. And so when the gospel, the real, true gospel I'm exposed to, and it starts changing my life by the renewing of my mind, folks, things get different. They just become different. Now, I'm going to say two last things and then we'll close. We all have teams, and I come around here and I see these Gator shirts, and I'm not critical of anybody, but what you're never going to find me doing is wearing another man's jersey on my back. I told Connie this, there's only one name that I've ever allowed to be put on my back, Coop, and it's the great Bo Jackson. His jersey, no, never again. And so I played sports my whole life, and I used to wear jerseys all the time. And I used to have coaches tell me this all the time. It's the name, you probably heard this, it's the name on the front of the jersey that matters. Whoever your team is, that name is more important than the name on the back of the jersey. And something dawned on me recently about just that concept. I've played for a lot of different teams and wore a lot of different jerseys for a lot of different clubs. But the one thing I know is the only way I qualified to be on that team was because of the confidence I had in the name on the back. I just always made plays. And so us coming into church, the ecclesia is, it's kind of like having a jersey on that says ecclesia on the front. But the fact of the matter is the power of the name on the front has everything to do with the decisions you make on the name in the back. Right? You can wear a jersey, but this game that we're in requires participation. So what I realized was this: it's my fight, it's my fate, it's my race, and I'm going to qualify myself. I get up every morning, and one of the first declarations I make out of my mouth is this: Yeshua, what I've known is you've proven to me, and I said this to y'all the last time I was here, and I've said it every day since. You've proven to me that there is power over sin. You've proven that. for you. Now, I want to prove today that it's true in my life. I can overcome my sin nature. Second thing is, I realize that I can't blame anybody for my bad decisions or good ones but me. So when I get up every day, I ask for strength and I ask for the courage to make the right decisions every day, all day. The third thing I declare is that this is a journey that has demands. It just does. This is a spiritual walkout that requires me to say no to some things so that my betterment in qualifying becomes a reality. And then the final thing is, if I do all those three things, I know that I'm going to qualify. I have no sense of concern or fear. This is my life, my walk, my faith. And Connie said something to me this morning as I closed that really mattered to me. And as I was kind of going through this with her, she said something like this. She said it better probably, but I just wrote it down. So what did we learn from this? What did we learn from this last 10 years? And here's what I wrote down. There's nothing quick about winning. If winning wasn't important to us in this spiritual journey, why would they have called it a race? If keeping score doesn't matter, why do we have scoreboards? And so with this whole process that I've just shared with you this morning, it's made me understand more easily what it takes in my spiritual journey. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. This is blood and guts. This takes time. It takes patience. It takes endurance. It takes people who are willing to go like, yeah, you know what? This is a journey. This is a process. And the payoff comes once we follow the process. What is hard to understand about that? I'll tell you why. Because we've been told in times past that if you say this little thing here, this prayer, and you put these things together, all this stuff just vanishes away. Why didn't it happen to me with our finances? If it just, I could say something. I mean, we said it 15,000 times. And guess what? $96,000 later, I'm free of it. And so for you, I want you to hear me today, and I want you to know this. This spiritual journey is just a process that has to happen, and it's something that we have to endure, and it's a race you have to run. But you can win, right? And the winning comes at a later time, and I get that, but I'm telling you, I feel like I'm winning every day because I feel a different me, and I see a different us. And much of that has to do with those three things that I just told you. And I'm going to close with this. You have better take time to get up out of your mess. So some of you this morning are you need to get up. That's all I'm going to tell you. And you need to really recognize that the way to the process of qualification starts with you being willing to go like, hey, you know what? No longer can I stay here. I got to get up. Now, when you get up, you're going to look around you and you're going to see high walls and very, very tough to get out of. But just remember this. I got out of it, and so can you. We got out of it, and so can you. And so what I'm encouraging you to do today is just to fight until you're out. You've just got to get to a place where you go, I don't know how long this is going to take. And that's sometimes a weary and well-doing. This is only scripture. It's sad that I did this, but I hear Johnny all the time say, when I bring up scriptures, everybody tunes out. So I only brought one today. The book of Galatians, it says this, and we know this. And this is kind of that process thing that I just feel deep in me every day. And that is, you talk about seed time and harvest. And you talk about, plant seed first has to die. And so now I'm looking at that scripture going like, before this, we had to do this. We died. I mean, we literally, it's just like in every way but physically, we died. Right? And then all of a sudden you start seeing, whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. And let me tell you this, that goes both ways. You sow this way and you're going to get the result of that. And if you sow this way, you're going to get the result of that. And I know that to be a case, and I experienced that. But here's the passage of Scripture that mattered most to me during this time. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap, if he faints not. Frustrated as you are, don't faint. Just endure. You gotta fight. You gotta turn and say no. Hard, yeah. But standing before you today is somebody who does not feel the need for approval like I felt before, right? I always needed people to pat me on the back, right? Jokingly, Gloria will get a kick out of this. Connie and I wasn't married 3 weeks. And I'd come in from work just jacked up because I'd sold something or I'd done something. And I just needed her to affirm me so bad. And one day she said this to me. I said, you don't... No, we're 3 weeks in. It ain't looking good. I'm just kidding. I come in and I'm like... Because my dad was an affirmer. I mean, affirmer. Wasn't he? Look at Connie. My dad, like, oh my God. Oh. It's like Lion King. Here, world. Simba. Isn't that his name in my line? No, that's it. My dad today. Oh. And I was expecting Connie to be like that. Oh, he's welcome home. Now, she's working too. I'd come home, I'd be like, I'm awesome. I just need you to tell me. And I need you to tell me more. And my wife, some of you know her, she's not really, she's just kind of black and white. And one day, she finally had basically had enough. And she comes up to me and she goes, I said, it's just disappointing. You never tell me how much you appreciate everything I'm doing. Shook her little head. She said, kind of like you not being appreciative for me washing clothes and cooking meals and working myself. And I went, you don't understand. This is different. I mean, I'm getting in a car every day and I'm going out and I'm fighting hard and she never bought that. So I had a real problem with validation. And you know what? The fact of the matter is I'm free of that today. I just feel like that Yahweh is the one who affirms me, and he's the one that's going to take care of me, and he's the one that's going to provide for me. And all of this encumbering thought process that you're having today can be gone, but you got to make a decision. This race is designed for us to win, but you better put your running shoes on. And you better set your mind to the things you've done before don't work anymore. And today, just like us, may not happen overnight and probably won't, but all this turmoil and this torment in your head can be gone. But you got to set your head and point your direction in 3 things. Get up, get out, and get on with it. And find that directional sense, and you're in a house to follow how that compass should lead. And you'll find at some point or another all your dreams, all your hopes, all the things that you desire will come to be, right? And I'm not saying that about money or anything else, but here's the last thing I'll tell you. Where I feel so free today is my mind is just clutter-free. You know, I really don't feel like, that I'm in turmoil. I mean, that internal dialogue is just not choking me out anymore. And I promise you this, that, if nothing else, is worth it all. It's worth it all. Turn it off.